we did something really cool during our live show on Thursday this week, a company-wide Chat Sports NFL mock draft, where all of our channels went live, and the host for each channel made the picks for that team. So I want to share with you the picks I made for the Broncos, and I made these picks based on what I would do as the GM. Usually, 9 times out of 10, I do what I think the Broncos are going to do because that's more important. But this time, no. I decided I'm Sean George Payton. I'm making the picks. So let's start off with the first pick going to the Titans, where they selected Cam Ward. Then the rest was pretty expected. Hunter, Abdul Carter, Will Campbell. I think the draft will look something very close to this. The real wild card could be the Patriots at 4. But the Jags definitely threw a wrench at us, going with Tyler Warren, the Penn State tight end. Then Ashton Jeanty sadly goes within the division. I do not look forward to Denver having to face him twice a year. Shedeur Sanders ends up in New Orleans at 9. That was made by our Saints host. I don't think Shedeur actually goes 9. I've said for a while, I think he goes closer to 32 than pick number 1. The Bears selected Mike Green out of Marshall. Jalen Walker falls all the way to the Niners. That is their Dre Greenlaw replacement. But the Broncos at 20 are inching closer and closer. So let's check out who Denver selected with the 20th overall pick. And by Denver, I mean me. And I picked Omarion Hampton. I didn't mess around here. I went out and I got the next best running back, which is Denver's biggest need right now. Maybe a little bit of a reach according to the traditional big board. Between you and me, I don't give a shit. I want Omarion Hampton in this team's backfield. He is a very special back. He's about 6 foot, 221 pounds at the NFL Combine. Back-to-back seasons for the Tar Heels with 15 touchdowns. If you want to know one thing about him, it's this. Violent. I want a running back who wants to fight for the extra yard, not someone who looks to step out of bounds. Omarion Hampton's going to be there to move the chains for you on 3rd and 3. He may not have the top-end speed to rattle off a 70-yard touchdown in some candy-ass game in Miami in September, but you know what? In December in Denver, he's going to be there to make sure that this team's offense stays on the field by converting on 2nd and 3rd and short. But he's not just some bowling ball Mike Tolbert of a back. No, he is one of just 8 running backs in the last 10 years to weigh in north of 220 pounds at the Combine and run a 40-yard dash sub 450. The other guys who meet that criteria, north of 220 but south of 450 for the 40, just a couple of notable backs you might have heard of: Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott. Yeah, good company to be in. So sure, you can argue that's not the best player on the board. You know what? Screw BPA here. This team needs a new running back. They've needed one for a decade. The revolving door from Noshawn Moreno to C.J. Anderson to Phillip Lindsay to Melvin Gordon to Javonte Williams, and with Denver not having a 100-yard rusher in a game for 3 years since Latavius Murray, when Jerry Rosberg, whatever his name was the interim. Yeah, I'm not going to play with my food here. I'm not going to see if I can manipulate this draft and go, well, if I go with a different player here, I can get the running back later. No. I'm getting the best running back available when Denver's back on the clock for the first time, and I'm taking Omarion Hampton. You're going to like it. So here were the guys that went right before Hampton at 20. Colston Loveland would have been a fun pick for sure, but he goes to Seattle, so it's out of the question. Guys that I passed on that I could see Denver taking: Derek Harmon, Oregon defensive tackle; Kenneth Grant, Michigan nose tackle. That's your 330-pound tree stump to block up offensive linemen and free up your linebackers. Wide receiver, I don't think Denver's going receiver in rounds 1 or 2, to be honest with you. In fact, I don't even think they'll go receiver on day 1 or 2 altogether. Some other guys: Matthew Golden, another receiver; Walter Nolan, if they want to go DT, that's a name to watch for. On to round 2, where Denver still has a pick. None of these guys were obviously available at the beginning stages of the second round, but none of them I'd say are big candidates for round 1 other than Caleb Johnson if Hampton goes before Denver's on the clock, and the Broncos still want to get a running back. But moving on here, who else would have been nice? Travion Henderson. If I didn't go running back in round 1, I would have liked Henderson in round 2, but he goes to Dallas at 44, so not in the cards for the Broncos. All right. Then we've got Nick Scorton going to the Colts, followed by another edge rusher, and then a receiver from Arizona that I could see the Broncos having some potential interest in, Elik Ayomanor, But with the 51st pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, I selected Elijah Arroyo, tight end out of Miami. This was more of a best player available type pick than truly picking for their greatest need. Tight end's still a decent need. You signed Evan Ingram, but I don't think that completely alleviates the pressure at finding a tight end in this very deep tight end class at some point in the draft. But I wanted to go with Elijah Arroyo because I felt that with just a 2-year contract for Ingram, Bo Nix could still use a partner in crime for the next 10 years. And after seeing what Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes had, wasn't Kelce a second or third round pick? Why can't Arroyo be that guy for Nick's career in Denver? So here's what you got to know about the Hurricane. 1, he's a great receiving target. There are some questions about his blocking ability. Solid size, though. He's 6'6", more or less, 6'5", 254 pounds. Now, the red flag here is the medical side. If this checks out, he should be a really good pick for someone. He did miss a good chunk of time during his time in Miami with a knee injury. That's definitely something that teams are going to do research on and explore during his visits and at the NFL Combine. I don't get the sense that the Broncos are gravitating towards a tight end in round 2. I think Evan Ingram really satisfied that itch for them. But looking over who is available, I just decided, you know what? Ingram's 29. He's on a 2-year contract. I don't think he's your long-term answer at that position. Tight ends always take a year to really develop. I mean, look at some of the best tight ends in football and how quiet they were their rookie season. So let Arroyo kind of sit behind and develop and learn from Ingram in 2025. Then in 2026, you start to see what we got out of the Ravens this past year, where Mark Andrews began passing the torch to what's-his-face out of Coastal Carolina. So Isaiah Likely, thank you, Reed. That's not a bad plan for the Broncos with Arroyo. Let that knee take a whole year to kind of get healthy, right? Not put too much on his plate from the jump. And then in 2026, you've got a running back and a tight end and a quarterback all in the second or third year of their career. And it's very easy to find receivers who can be impact players as rookies. Running backs and tight ends, not as easy. So I like the opportunity for Arroyo to develop a little bit as a rookie and then take on more in his second year and the final year of Ingram's 2-year contract. Now let's look and see who I passed on. Who could have been a better pick? Jared Wilson, the Georgia center, if you want to replace Luke Wattenberg, it's not a very good center class. So the fact that not one center goes in the top 50 says a lot about what the league thinks about these centers. Who else could have been a good pick? If you wanted a safety, Xavier Watts from Notre Dame. I don't think Denver needs to go edge rusher. It's a very good edge class, but where is that guy going to find snaps? It's not going to be from Benito or Cooper. And then you want to see the development of Jonah Ellis. Plus, DeAndre Tillman had a very strong 2024 campaign. So I'm not really finding a hole for a need for an edge rusher early in the draft. I really like Kevin Winston out of Penn State. Alfred Collins, I was banking on being there in round 3. Then Smitty took him for the Bills at pick 62. That sucked. I really wanted him for Denver in the 3rd. Omar Norman Lott would have been another good 3rd-round pick. High pass rush upside, but not an every down type player. Moving on here, Andrew Makuba for the Bears. I would have liked that for the Broncos as well. Not a lot of receivers going off the board, and that's fine with me. I'm not in a rush to get a receiver in this class. You took 2 receivers in last year's class. You saw Marvin Mims break out at the end of last year. You still have Courtland Sutton eyeing an extension. It's not a very good receiver class, so why force a bad pick when you don't even have a huge need at that spot, in my opinion? I don't think Denver goes wide receiver in rounds 1, 2, or 3. I think they like the development they saw from Troy Franklin and Devaughn Vele, who now go into year 2, and they want to put more on their plates, not take snaps away for them for some other rookie who's just joining the team. But with the 85th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Game Time. Let me tell you all about our sponsor today. You guys are not going to like that segue. Game Time, which makes getting tickets faster and easier, even for hard-to-get playoff seats. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA playoff tickets. So if you want to go see the Nuggets, you want to go see the Avs, you want to go see the Rockies, or any other sporting event in your area, just visit Game Time first. They're giving Broncos Country $20 off their first purchase. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off. All that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. With pick 85, I went with Ohio State defensive tackle Ty Hamilton. I said I wanted Alfred Collins. I want to add to this interior defensive line. Let's just zoom out for a second. Coming out of the Bills' playoff loss, what did Denver have to do? They had to get a running back. They had to get a tight end. They got the tight end with Evan Ingram. They got a running back. I did with Omarion Hampton. Okay, check. What were the next biggest needs for this team? Run-stopping unit. I want to add to this interior defensive line. And Ty Hamilton, who played the nose tackle position for the Buckeyes this past season, a 2-year starter, can come in here and be a nice piece of just youthfulness on the interior defensive line. 6 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks. I don't expect him to be a traditional nose tackle at the next level. He probably needs to add 15 pounds to do that. But let's be honest, the direction that the league is heading, they want interior guys that can also rush the passer. And I think Hamilton, at pick 85, I won't try and sell him off as some Aaron Donald or Chris Jones, but I think at this spot in the draft, you're getting a nice combination of some good run-stopping skills, but some pass-rushing upside as well. Now, I think there's some coaching that needs to be done, and if I'm being completely transparent, this is not a pick that I want to write home about as some terrific selection. But at 85, you got to be willing to kind of adapt a bit and pivot from what you really wanted to do. There were some other guys at this spot that I was considering. We can look at those players afterwards, but here's just some of the background on Hamilton. He was a 2-year starter, like I said, for the Buckeyes. He can win with burst and quickness. He's not the greatest athlete, but at 300 pounds, you shouldn't have sky-high expectations. But I do think the position versatility will be valued by Sean Payton, right? You've got John Franklin Myers, DJ Jones, Zach Allen. 2 out of those 3 guys are entering contract years. One of them is 30 years old. Don't you think it's not the worst thing in the world to find someone who can hop around a little bit and fill in for an injury if needed, or just play their usual spot, which I expect to be in a 3-4 defense, kind of around a 2 technique? I don't think he's going to be quite a traditional nose tackle, one directly over the center. Very shades in a little bit over the guard. So here are my selections for the Broncos: Omarion Hampton, Elijah Arroyo, and then Ty Hamilton. So let me know what your thoughts are on this mock draft. Grade it for me, A, B, C, D, or F. Other guys at round 3 I could have gone with Billy Bowman, the Oklahoma safety. Thought that could have been a fun pick as well. Get a new, young kind of safety, since there's not a lot of faith, it feels like, between Delaren Turner-Yell, P.J. Locke, or J.L. Skinner. So safety's another spot you could have gone with in round number 3. We will be live, by the way, for the actual NFL draft, so make sure you come back for that. That gets started Thursday night, so don't miss round 1, and then we'll have day 2 coverage as well, really all 3 days. So hit that sub button, turn on your notifications, and get locked in for my favorite week of the entire football calendar year, or honestly, NFL Draft Week.